What's going on, everybody? In this video, we're covering a science topic, and I actually have it's a small trick, but it's a trick that's going to make most people that hear this think they're a little smarter in interpreting what we're talking about a little better than they actually are. And so we're talking about mental illness and genetics and epigenetics. So mental illness is interesting because as a sort of scientific category of disease, it's not as well defined nearly as much as some other diseases that like cancer, which we can actually sequence. And so, some people might say, well, mental illness is made up. We're not really talking about that. What we are talking about is that when we think about, even in society, it doesn't matter how weird the world is or how much sort of confidence we have in just our human nature and stuff like that. Most often, I think a lot of people would say it would be incredibly, incredibly unprobabilistic and surprising if we didn't find out that both DNA and RNA, so genetics and to some extent this epigenetic sort of sense of how our genes express themselves in the world, underlie mental illness. And I have a perfect example for what this is like. And so picture 3 or 4 marathon runners, maybe the top marathon runners in the world. And if you saddle them with no backpack and then a 10, a 20, a 30, a 40, a 50, 60, 70, 80 pound backpack, maybe we have 10 runners and you keep going up, we would bet pretty good money that at the upper end of that spectrum, as well as any individual carrying more than the person before them, has a higher probability of dropping out of that race. Now, what's interesting is this is analogous. It's almost an inductive sort of analogy that describes what genetics and epigenetics and mental illness may be like. Because there's 2 things going on. See, I told you I was going to trick you a little bit. There's 2 things going on in this example. One is we are necessarily saying that these runners probably have a specific failure because they're carrying the weight, and 2, they're actually dropping out. And this is a lot like what we imagine mental illness is probably like. One is that there is probably some sort of neurological component that is like a disease in the sense that, well, everybody's body operates differently, but there's some sort of process that may involve things like hormones or neurotransmitters and certain regions of the brain that may not be operating just like everyone else in societies. And the second thing is we're actually talking about that behavioral component inductively, by analogy, by saying that, well, not only does it matter that, Eliud Kipchoge's butt got tired or Ryan Hall's butt got tired and they dropped out, but they would report and tell you, yeah, I didn't finish the race this time. So that's the video.